Dear friends, family and colleagues, a very good evening to one and all present here today, as well as our colleagues who have joined online from the regional centers. On behalf of TERI, I, Mitali Sarkar, welcome you all to the 23rd Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture. We are pleased to have with us our guest of honor, Dr. Raghunath Anand Mishelkar, former Director General of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, and all dignitaries. Also on stage, Mr. Nitin Desai, Chairman, TERI Governing Council, and Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General, TERI. The Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture is organized by TERI every year in the honor and memory of TERI's founder, Mr. Darbari Seth, a distinguished technocrat and industrialist who made corporate history during his glorious career extending over 52 years. It was his vision and farsightedness who laid down the strong foundation that TERI stands today. It was under his leadership that TERI grew and emerged as one of the leading think tank and a knowledge institution in the field of sustainability and climate change in India. It is an honor for us to have his family present here with us today to keep supporting his idea of TERI. To begin the function, may I request our distinguished guest on the stage to kindly light the lamp on the occasion. Thank you, dignitaries. May I now request Dr. Dhawan to kindly honor Dr. RK Mishelkar with a small token of our gratitude. Now, may I request Mr. Nitin Desai, Chairperson, TERI Governing Council, to kindly deliver the welcome address and share with us the 50 years of TERI's legacy.
Dr. Mishelkar, Vibha, Dhawan, and all of you who are present here. It's a pleasure for me to be here to welcome you all to this Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture. I actually knew Darbari Seth a long time ago when I was, for a brief period, for 3 years, working in Tata's. And I had already sensed then what a far-sighted person he was. He was a remarkable person to be in touch with. Very open, very easy to talk to. He was the head of Tata Chemicals, but he did not behave like a very senior person. He talked to you very informally. He is in many ways a person who really is very responsible for what TERI is today. What he did when he set up TERI in those days it was called the Tata Energy Research Institute, but when he set up TERI in 1974, it was partly a product of the great oil crisis which had come up towards the end of 1973. This was a time when the OPEC guys succeeded in raising the crude oil price by a factor of 5 or 6. And that really led people to address the issue as to how are you going to cope with this. Now, much of the response at that time was, let us look for concessions if we can get them, etc., etc. But what was really far-sighted about Mr Darbari Seth was that he realized that this is not just a question of coping with the immediate problem of higher prices, that this is probably the beginning of a change in the challenges of energy use in a country, for which we need to start thinking, working, assessing, innovating, and so on. And that is why, unlike the others, he set up something which was a long-term looking setup, what he called the Tata Energy Research Institute, TERI for short. And this was his greatness, that he was not somebody who simply looked at an issue in terms of the immediate challenges and the immediate answers that one has to look for, but he was aware that we have to look for longer term solutions and answers. And that is why he set up TERI in 1974. About a decade later, of course, we know that Dr. Pachauri joined, and in many ways what we are today is very much a product both of Darbari Seth's initiative that he took in 74 and the dynamism which Dr. Pachauri put into the development of TERI after he joined a decade later in 1984. And in many ways, TERI has developed. It started initially as an energy research type of place, but it realized that you can't just talk of energy, you have to go beyond that to look also at resources. So it is inevitable that sooner or later we became the Energy and Resources Institute, so that we could combine things. And today we are very well aware of the fact that TERI is not just about energy, it's also about many other areas of resources. In fact, for instance, the work it does on agriculture is phenomenal. And over these 50 years, many of you have been participated in the 50th anniversary celebrations, where we looked at all of the things that have been achieved in TERI over these years. And it is a great deal which goes much beyond what was expected when it was first set up as an institute in 1974. But what we have to recognize is that it was that period from 74 onwards which allowed it to build up a certain momentum. And today, of course, we are very much at the center of the challenges of development which not just India, but practically every country in the world remains. And today what we have to look for in seeking solutions to this are certainly certain changes in policies about investment, about pricing, about many things, but the real challenge is innovation. If I look at the challenges that we face on climate, for instance, when you come to 2030, perhaps all the technologies that we require to reach the targets that we have set for 2030 are available: renewable energy, energy efficiency, etc., etc. But if you look beyond 2030, if you look at our zero targets, net zero targets, then we will need innovation which goes much beyond what we know today. And this is something which is very crucial. And it's for this reason that I'm extremely happy that we have today Dr. Mashelkar with us. And in fact, the theme of his talk is going to be very much on innovation. Dr. Mashelkar is also somebody I've known for some time. And he's a person of great standing in the world of science, not just in India, but globally. He was, of course, besides his functioning as a scientist in academia, he was also, as was pointed out to you, the Director General of CSIR. But what I find most impressive is that well after he left CSIR, which was nearly 20 years ago, he's still been very actively involved. And the one message that comes across very clearly from him is the importance of innovation. And as I just pointed out earlier, he has actually set up an award for small-scale innovation. And he gives that award every year in the name of his mother. And he has been a great advocate of looking at challenges, not just in terms of what can I do, how can I change this technology in terms of what I know already, but in terms of innovation. And that is what we will, I'm sure, hear much more about when he speaks to us today. He's a person of great eminence, and we are really happy. Apart from India, he's a fellow of the Royal Society, he's a fellow of the Society in the United States, he's a fellow of many others. He's been involved a lot at the international dimension also. And we know that we too are trying to focus a little bit of our work at the global dimension in things like the World Sustainable Development Summit, which we run, and so on. So in many ways, I think the second thing that I would stress is the need to look beyond a country into what is necessary at a much more global level. So with these few words of welcome, let me stop here and thank you all for being present, and thank Dr. Mashelkar for finding time to come and speak to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Desai, for being an inspirational leader and a source of TERI's accelerating growth. Now, I welcome my colleague, Ms. Apurva, to take the program forward.
Thank you, Mitali. Good evening, everyone. I, Apurva Singh, am glad to announce that we now come to a very special moment. Colleagues who have completed 30 years, 20 years, and 10 years of service would now be felicitated for their long association and commitment to TERI. This is the momentous occasion that reminds us of the profound impact an individual can have on an organization's growth and success. Let's begin by acknowledging the significance of this milestone. 30 years is not just a milestone, it symbolizes 3 decades of steadfast dedication, invaluable contributions, and enduring loyalty. May I now request Dr. R.A. Mashelkar to felicitate our esteemed TERI colleagues who have completed 30 years of remarkable service to this institution. I request Dr. R.A. Mashelkar to please felicitate our colleagues who have completed 30 years in the organization. We begin with our Director General, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, ma'am. Mr. T.P. Shankar. Mr. Ramachandra Pal. Ms. Arpana Arora. Mr. Dheer Singh, Mr. A. Amal Das, Mr. Dharamveer, Mr. Satyapal, Mr. G. K. Mishra, Mr. Dinesh Singh, Mr. Virendra Kumar Trivedi, Mr. Ravikant Gupta, Mr. Manoj Kumar, Mr. Bal Krishna Dhar Dwivedi, Mr. Subhash Arora, Mr. Karamveer Singh, Mr. Birender Singh Bhartiya, Mr. Prashanto Pal, Miss Neena Mata, Mr. Umesh Bharti, Miss Radhika K, and Miss N. Deepa. Thank you everyone. We now move on to colleagues who've shown consistent dedication, hard work and commitment for the past 2 decades. May I now request Dr. Mishelkar to felicitate our TERI colleagues who've devoted 20 years of their service to our organization. We begin with Mr. Vijay Vikram S. Parihar, Mr. Shyam Sundar Nair, Shrikala. Mr. Girish Govinda Pillai. Ms. Lakshmi Subramanian. And Ms. Ritu Ghai. Thank you everyone. We also have colleagues who for the past decade been a testament of growth, learning and meaningful contribution. We would also like to felicitate our colleagues who have completed 10 years of their dedicated service. We begin with Mr. Manjeet Singh. Mr. Sangram Keshri Ojha. Ms. Deep Rajni. Dr. Arindam Datta. Ms. Ashita Bhaskar. Can we please have a big round of applause for all the colleagues? Up next we have Ms. Suraksha Dhingra. Mr. Anand Singh. Mr. Sachin Bhardwaj. Ms. Alia Siddiqui. Mr. Pradeep Chaudhary. And Mr. Deepak Singh Rana. We also have a few colleagues who completed 10, 20 and 30 years of their service but could not be present with us today. Colleagues who completed 30 years include Mr. Krishan Kumar, Dr. Banwari Lal, Mr. Shanta Murthy, Mr. Girish Sethi, Ms. K.Y. Valsa and Ms. G. Lakshmi. Can we have a big round of applause for all our colleagues? Colleagues who completed 20 years of their service but are not present here today include Dr. Dipankar Saharia and colleagues who completed 10 years of service but could not be present here today include Mr. Ankit Bhalla. Can you please have a huge round of applause for all our colleagues? I now hand it over to my colleague Dr. Mitali.
Thank you, Purva. Now it's time for the Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture, and we are deeply honored to have with us today Dr. R.A. Mishelkar, former Director General of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, to deliver the 23rd Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture. It was under his leadership in the 1990s that CSIR underwent a transformation that was widely acclaimed by both leading scientists and industrialists. Dr. Mashelkar is a fellow of the Royal Society, making him only the third engineering scientist from India to receive this prestigious honor. He is also first and only Indian scientist to have won Lenovo Science Prize, the highest science award given by the World Academy of Sciences. Dr. Mashelkar has also been awarded with 48 honorary doctorates from universities across the world. Additionally, he has served as a member of the Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Ministers for 30 years under successive governments. In recognition of his remarkable contribution, Mr. Mashelkar has been honored with Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan by the President of India, as well as Star of Asia Award presented by former US President George H.W. Bush Sr. Now may I request Mr. Mashelkar to kindly take the dais.
My esteemed friend and mentor, whom I have admired over the years, Shri Nitin Desai, Vibhaji, members of my very dear family, TERI, and I say, my dear family, I'm a member of your family. In the year 2020, I was honored with an honorary doctorate by TERI University, so I'm one of you. I'm alumnus of school. And I hold among all those 48 honorary doctorates that I talked about, this as one of the most precious ones of my life. So, Vibhaji, thank you very much for doing me the honor. And the honor is manifold because we are celebrating also 5 decades of journey of this great institution, TERI. You know, Nitinji, I was just having lunch with Dr. Reddy, Srinath Reddy, PHFI, and you mentioned about the foundation that I have created in my mother's name, and he asked me what is the purpose of the foundation. I said it's very simple, saving lives. In a similar way, if I look at TERI, the big purpose is saving the earth. The big purpose, if there is no green future, there is no future. It is saving the future. So can you just imagine 50 years of dedication for just this big cause? I think it's fantastic. I want to congratulate all those who are honored today for long service for this great organization. It is a service for the humanity, not just for the institution, because the institution stands with the big purpose of saving the humanity and the future. So thank you very much. This is a very special evening in my life. I'm greatly honored to give the birth centenary Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture. Darbari Seth, I would describe him as a great innovator, Sir, you talked about innovation. There are two definitions of innovators that I like. The first is, innovator is one who does not know it cannot be done. Darbari Seth was that. And the second is, innovator is one who sees what everybody else sees, but thinks of what nobody else thinks. Can you just imagine 50 years ago, the Energy Research Institute. Can you imagine now today you understand the importance of TERI when the temperatures are soaring up 53.2 degrees centigrade and the floods and whatever is happening. But to imagine the importance of this balance of environment, ecology, economics, equity and ethics at that time, and to create an institution like that, what a foresight it must have been. On a lighter side, there is some commonality between us, by the way. He was trained as a chemical engineer. I am also a chemical engineer. And I have seen the great work he did with Tata Chemicals and, of course, the rest. And the other interesting thing, my birth date is 1st January 1943. His birth date is 1st January, but as far as 1943 concerned, he joined Tata's in 1943. So not bad. So I really want to play my tributes to Darbari Seth ji. The other association I had with him, I interacted very closely with him because I've been involved with Tata Group in many ways. Even today, you mentioned about retirement, and after that, Tata Affirmative Action Program I have been chairing for the last 12 to 13 years. So I continue with them. It's a great organization. T in Tata stands for trust, I always say, as a matter of fact. And they started this institution. And I remember when I was the Director General of CSIR, he was the chairman of the governing board of CSMCRI, Central Salt Marine Research Institute. And I had a number of occasions to interact with him, and he was watching very closely the transformation that CSIR was undergoing, about which a few remarks were made a little earlier. And then they started this JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. And I remember receiving it in 1998. It was very interesting. Before me, Nitinji, it was Narayana Murthy, and after me it was Premji. So they used to talk about Saraswati sandwich between Lakshmi and Lakshmi. I still remember that. But to have this particular vision that a scientist should be given a corporate leadership award and redefining the way science is done, particularly science and its application and benefit to industry and society, it was he who was responsible. So I want to say thank you to him, grateful thanks for this. This is very interesting, by the way. In 57-58, Tata Chemicals wanted to expand its soda ash manufacturing capacity from 80 tons to 200 tons with the expertise of a foreign firm. Darbari Seth said, we can do it. What is more, we should aim not at 200 but at 400 tons, which is the optimum capacity, and doing it ourselves, we shall spend much less than what has been budgeted. This was the discussion in the board. Next line is very interesting. Declare Mr. Seth, and then the 16 managers, board members, only one agreed with him, JRD Tata. The other 16 disagreed, and they went forward. And do you know from 80 what he moved to? Not 200, not 400, 553 tons. All right, that's the spirit. So I would call it an exponential spirit, not incremental. What is incremental? Doing 10%. What is exponential? Doing tenfold. That's the theme of my talk today. Okay? And that's why I want to pay a special tribute to him. Darbari Seth was an exponential thinker, like you see in the earlier slide. So this lecture is dedicated to the theme close to his heart, chasing exponentials. Chasing exponentials, simple theme. I want to just mention that a lot of my thoughts that I'm presenting here today are there in these two books, which have come 3 years ago. One book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, and the second one is Experiment, which has become a national bestseller. Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting got the Best Business Book of the Year award in Tata Life Festival. And these two books actually talk about chasing exponential. What kind of mindset you require, what kind of leadership you require. India needs growth, but it needs accelerated growth. And it needs accelerated inclusive growth, all right? And therefore, leapfrogging to pole vaulting is not jumping like a frog a few feet, but pole vaulting where the size of your aspiration is what will drive you forward. That's how long you can go. And improvement is exponential improvement through governing powers, not 10%, 10x. So a lot of what I'm going to say is from that, plus actually you will see a lot of it is from my book of life in terms of what I have learned. So if you see the word me, please don't misunderstand. If you see the picture where my own picture is there, please don't misunderstand, because this is not by reading books, but from the book of my life. I would say India is chasing exponentials in recent times, and I like to call it the lilies in the pond model. So let me explain what that is. Now here is this pond which looks empty, okay? The interesting thing is that on day one it looks almost empty, and lilies in this pond double up every day. You remember what Darbari Seth said? Not 200 but 400. That is doubling, and then doubling, and then doubling. That doubling spirit is exponential. Now, what happens is that if you go to that pond on the 30th day, it is full, 100% full. So one day, will it be half full? Are there lots of 29th, simple, no? Okay. Then on 28th, quarter full, 27th, 1/8. And if you see, on day 26, it will be 116, that means 6% full. So you are seeing a pond which is almost empty, okay? But the beauty is, it will change from almost empty to full plan in just 4 days, 27, 28, 29, and 30. I would say that India, in many respects, is lilies in the pond on the 26th day. And I'll explain. Because the scientist must not only propose something, he has to give evidence that what we are saying is not just a political speech, but talking in real terms. So here are some examples. So first point I want to make, and since you mentioned about innovation, let us understand that it is not just technological innovation that is innovation. There is a business model innovation. Like Airbnb is a business model innovation. Ola is a business model innovation. There are system delivery innovations. There are workflow innovations. There are process innovations. There are organizational innovations. And equally importantly, there are policy innovations. All of these, without policy innovation, if they are not backed up, they can come to zero. So when I talk about innovation, it is total innovation in all these cases that I'm going to talk to you about. Look at, and since this is TERI and energy environment matters, I would start with the exponential growth in LED penetration, and you could see that from 0.1% to 88% share of lighting just in 7 years. Speed, scale, and sustainability. And you can see the exponential. I like this curves, by the way, not this, which go linearly, or this, which flatten out. This, okay? So all the curves, please mark carefully, they are like this. So if you can see, LED bulb prices in India dropped by 87%, 310 to 38, and from 2014, 2021, in 7 years, moved from 0.1% to 88%. So that means 2014 was lilies in the pond on the 26th day, 0.1%. You saw it empty. And within 7 years, it is full. And if you see, these are some headlines. Let there be light, how ESL is spearheading India's LED revolution. India's Ujala story is a classic story. And this is the report by the International Energy Agency case study we say the technology got adopted in just 6 months, while it should have taken 5 years speed. And as a result of the ESL program, the LED bulb is now cheaper than bread. That is what the study says. And this LED revolution is an exponential inclusive growth, I would say. You remember what I said, accelerated growth, but accelerated inclusive growth. Because LED lamp production up 30 times, 3 crore a month, but retail price of LED bulbs dropped severely. But most importantly, this is the line I love. Rural areas, to get 600 million LED bulbs at 10 rupees a piece without government subsidy, all right? So you have this exponential, but inclusion. I love these two words going together. Exponential is rapidity of growth, and inclusion is including the excluded. This is a classic example. Where was the innovation? This was the demand aggregation, by which the prices could be negotiated and they could be dropped, as well as workflow innovations, system delivery innovation through ESL and so on. There was a combination of innovations. You look at world's largest sanitation initiative. It supported 10.9 crore individual households. And you can see just within 6 years, how we went to 99.6% of households having access to toilet. And I watched this closely because when this was created, I was appointed the chairman of the standing committee to select the best sanitation and drinking water technology. For 5 years, I sort of chaired it. So I watched it very closely on what these different kinds of innovations played this role. You know, and many times they say as important as science is behavioral science. It's not about building toilets, it's about using toilets. So there were diverse aspects of innovation which are actually used in this, including policy innovation. You remember our Honorable Prime Minister's statement from Red Fort. So this is a wonderful exponential. You look at the Prime Minister's Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, world's fastest and largest financial inclusion. You can see how we had this happen, and it was a combination of technology plus policy plus system delivery. You had Jan Dhan accounts, policy-wise, Aadhaar card, and mobile phones. And I'm very proud to show this certificate, Guinness Book of Records. It shows within 1 week how 18 lakh financial inclusion accounts were created. Nitinji, I was just reading Times of India today, the editorial. And it's very interesting, it talks about Jan Dhan accounts. What has happened is that the most unbanked country in the world became banked in short time. But most importantly, the accounts that were held by women were 56%. They moved from 29 to 56%. That is inclusion. Number two, I'll explain to you what else happened. If you look at mobile data consumption, for example, 2014 to 2022, 2014 it was nothing but 67-fold in just 8 years, all right? And if you see the real-time transactions, 740x in just 5 years. So on 2017, it was like lilies in the pond on the 26th day. And you can see the sort of big difference that came up. Now, this is interesting. The UPI clocked in 2022 over 74 billion transactions. That is 46% of world's transactions. The most unbanked became, can you see this is a sort of fantastic achievement. But here also, the Times of India editorial shows very interestingly that 56% of these were under rupees 500 transactions. And who will do under rupees 500 transactions? The bottom of the pyramid, those kind of people. Why I'm emphasizing this is that it is not just the bravado of going exponential, but at the same time achieving inclusion at the same time. Because when you have affordability, you have scalability. And you have extreme affordability, not 10% but 10x, you have extreme scalability. I think that is what we are witnessing. You look at Indian startups, for example. 2016, you can see 476 rising to 70,000, 145-fold. Startup India movement and the supporting policy, how it helped it. But actually there is something more interesting, and that is India produced more unicorn startups in 2021 than all previous years put together. 470 startups rising to 70,000. Till 2016, one unicorn per year. Unicorn, as you know, is $1 billion market cap, okay? Rising to almost one unicorn per week. But the biggest news here, again I'm looking at inclusion, 44 unicorns with a total valuation of 94.77 billion were born in 2021, and almost 50% of them came from Tier 3 and Tier 2 cities. Digital public infrastructure, the way it has helped, is incredible. That's inclusion. That is democratization of wealth. Can you imagine maybe a farmer's son who was in late 20s actually having a market cap like this? Or for a lower class, middle class family, and of course these are numbers which show the growth. I must say that a lot of my learning has come from my association with Reliance. I've been member of the board for 17 years. And I've chaired their Reliance Innovation Council. We used to have John Maryland, the Nobel laureate, Bob Grubbs, the Nobel laureate, C.K. Prahlad was a member, George Whiteside from Harvard, Bill Asseltine, and so on and so forth. And I remember their motto was growth is life. And we brought in innovation as a way of life. Not just top, but the entire organization making. And if you combine the two, it becomes innovation-led growth. But they did not believe just in growth, exponential growth. And I remember Mukesh Bhai was talking to me one day, and he said, Doc, we must leapfrog. Leapfrog was something, I don't remember now. So I said, Mukesh Bhai, do you know why frog leaps? So he said, I don't know. So I said, I will tell you. He leaps because he's afraid of the predator, enemy. And he jumps a few feet. And again jumps a few feet. Do you want to do that by being afraid of the competitor and jump a few feet? Or should you pole vault? The size of the pole is size of your aspiration. So this was our discussion, from leapfrogging to pole vaulting. And that led to some leadership program that we basically set up. And that was the origin of my book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting. But creating radical yet sustainable transformation. Did Reliance, of course that got the best business book of the year award, that's a separate matter. So if you see the pole vaulting that they did, if you look at the millions of GB per month that were consumed on mobile, this is where we stood, and this is where India stood. Came Jio, and within 1 year, we topped. We did not leapfrog from 155 to 100. We pole vaulted to #1, and we continue to be #1. That was because of extreme affordability at the time, 4 rupees per GB, voice free, and the rest of it, and the digital transformation. You know how actually it has happened. So there are many factors which have gone together in these exponentials. I mentioned about speed. I mentioned about acceleration. Pole vaulting to reach 50 million users. Telephone took 50 years for 50 million users. Mobile 12 years, YouTube 4 years, Facebook 3 years, Twitter 2 years, Reliance Jio pole vaulted in 83 days. Now you say if you have deep pockets you can do that. No, sorry. There was a huge amount of innovation. You have to read the book Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, which actually shows the kind of innovation. All 7 types of innovations that I talked about, by the way, were actually done. And of course, I was very proud. 29 July, in Bay Area, I gave the opening keynote address and showed to them this $8 Jio Bharat phone, 4G digital life, because 2G means you have no internet access, nothing. And there were 250 million people who did not have that particular access. And when you have it for $12, you can have it, and you can see the difference it is making now. They can do financial transactions, they can watch movies, and so on and so forth. All right? So affordability goes with scalability and this dramatic change. So what is the innovation leadership path for India? First, innovation has to be made as a way of life. Innovation is all about doing things differently to make a difference, all right? Second, innovation-led growth is something that is very, very important for us. But innovation-led exponential growth is something we should desire, and that cannot be done by incremental innovation. That has to be done by disruptive innovation. Now, one of the other favorite themes I have is that moving from incremental innovation to exponential improvement. Okay, how do you do that? And the basic thesis on this is very simple. The basic thesis is unexpected connection is more powerful than the one that is obvious. That is what Heraclitus had said. What it means, this requires the magic of converging the parallels. What is the property of parallel lines? They never meet. Okay? If you make them meet, there can be a breakthrough. Okay? That is the theme of that particular book. So this book, I want to acknowledge my co-author Harsh Hiladkar. I'm 81 going to 82, as you rightly said. He is 38 going to 39, half my age, but twice or even 20 times more intelligent than me. Fantastic experience of learning from him by writing the book. So what we have done there is this convex lens thinking. What does the convex lens do? Sun's rays are parallel, okay? But convex lens brings them together. So parallel lines, dissimilar thoughts, how it can be. So therefore you have to develop that particular sort of mindset, so as to say, of lateral thinking, where you can seemingly unconnectable things you can start connecting. Let me give you an example just to illustrate. Henry Ford started manufacturing cars. The assembly time for one car was 12 hours. Okay? He brought it down to 1.5 hours. And the cost came down by a factor of 10. That is where it became affordable. Otherwise, we would not have been having affordable cars. Now, you would say, obviously, he must have consulted some auto engineer, expert in that, etc. Sorry. One day, he had gone to a slaughterhouse, and it was a meat packaging sort of factory, and he saw that the cut part of the animals, the workers did not go to the cut part. The cut parts came to them, you know, on a conveyor belt. That is where he got the idea of assembly line. The worker is where it is, and everything is moving to him. Now tell me, what is common between a car manufacturing and slaughterhouse? He was able to connect it. And the rest is actually history. Look at another example. F1 car races. Okay? They break down, and within few seconds, the tires have changed. So there was this GSK's toothpaste manufacturing plant where they will change brand A to brand B, right? And it will take 2 hours. They said, why should it take 2 hours when that changeover takes few seconds? And they worked together and applied that workflow innovation. You remember the 7 innovations I talked about? One of them was workflow innovation. And what happened? They started producing 2 million extra tubes. So when you read the book, you will find examples after examples how this has been achieved. A few only I can, because I have limited time. Similarities between F1 pit crew and how an emergency room could be set up by using those workflows. Then applying combination of behavioral economics and technology from the gaming industry to physiotherapy. Gaming industry and physiotherapy, nothing common, no? When you read the book, you will find that there is. Then drawing a parallel between the concept of banking money and developing a way to bank time. Banking money you can understand, banking time. Nitinji, you and I, we are competing in our 80s now, okay? But when we were young, we had time at our hand. And supposing we had served an old lady or whatever social contribution that we made, supposing you take that time and bank it. And as you bank it, you know, you accumulate it, and you get old. And when you get old, that time can be used. You understand what a beautiful concept, okay? So that has been developed. And taking inspiration from thermochromic labeling of pizza box to design cancer detection device and so on and so forth. So I think the fundamental principle here is parachute works only when it is open. Mind is also like that. It works only when it is open. That is fundamental. Look at another parallel that should be all bothered about. That is Bharat and India. Look at Bharat, the multi-storied buildings that you see. But next to it is, India at 75 and Bharat at 75 remains in Juggies. They are separate. How can we bring them together? So, and India among the top countries with high income, wealth inequality is what you all know. So what do we do here? You can't raise their income. Nitinji, you are the expert, you know growth and the rest of it, etc., etc. So, can we create the magic of access equality despite income inequality? No matter how poor you are, you still create access equality. Here is an example. Here is a rich lady, perhaps driving Mercedes, and here is a lady from a Juggi. Both of them have something common. Both have access. Okay? So this is exponential yet inclusive growth that has taken place in India as a result of that. So the foundation that you talked about, Anjani Mashelkar Foundation, is about giving access equality despite income inequality. Okay? Making high technology work for the poor so that they can have access. Making high technology work for the rich, very easy. Making low technology work for the poor, very easy. Making high technology work for the poor, very difficult. So that is one objective. Second, we always pride, we are doing the best practice. Arey Baba, when you are doing the best practice, you are following the best practice of somebody, which might have been established 50 years ago. You have to create the next practice. And our next practice has to become best practice for others. So this award is only given to those who meet these two criteria, 13 years now. And I'll give you the philosophy behind this. We are focused on health because we can't boil the ocean. And within health, we are focused on diagnostics. You can just see here, supposing you have breast cancer, and you identify it very early. With little expense, you can save your life. But the more you go, you can see the exponential, undesirable exponential. Okay? Now, the challenge is, if diagnosis is done early, the expenses for a given patient will be less than 1/10, and the governments can also save more than 90% of its healthcare treatment budget. It can make a whole difference. But then go to diagnosis. What is the problem? Mammography. That is invasive as well as painful. Involves radiation. Is expensive. Costs about 3,000 to 3,500 rupees. How can somebody who earns 3,500 rupees per month, perhaps, can afford that? Bulky equipment, high testing and turnaround time, requirement of trained professionals, a woman from village has to travel to the city, lack of digitalization to track, monitor, etc. There are a whole range of problems. So, diagnosing respiratory problems using cough biomarkers, for example, we developed something that's very interesting here. Cough biomarkers, what happens? The best practice is pyrometer. Now, there has been a breakthrough where you take a smartphone and train it through artificial intelligence. You just cough and it can recognize what is wrong. Okay? What is the difference you make? Equipment costs from 1.5 lakh to 0. Because you already have smartphone, they have become so cheap now. The assessment costs, it is 500 to 1500. This becomes just 1 rupee, and results not in 90 minutes but just instantly. So 3 lakh lung health scale assessments have been done. But most importantly, there is a scientific validation of what has been done. And there is a paper in Nature. I don't like Jugaad, as I said. This has to be high science, high technology working for the poor. There are 2 papers in Nature on this. And this is now widespreading as a sort of a test. If you go back to the mammography, this is the device that has been created by Mihir Shah, young fellow. This is a low-cost tactile sensor that measures tissue stiffness difference in real time, non-invasively and without pain. It is ultra-portable, accurate, minimal training, wireless, cloud-connected, instant results, and it has gone to 20 countries now. FDA clearance and the whole range of things, and scanned over 2.5 million women, and it is making a big difference. We Goa government, for example, screened 1 lakh women. 34 of them, unfortunately, were found to have this. And all that you do is move it around the breast, completely non-invasive. Okay? And you can see the difference. On the other day, there was another camp where 1,000 ASHA workers, they are underpaid, overworked, and unskilled, as you know. We took them, basically. There was a particular initiative, and once again, we found some. So I won't have time to go through all this. I could give a full lecture on this, but each one of these winners, by the way, 13 years, they have made a huge difference. Some have gone to 20, some have gone to 12 countries. One of them, Axiostat, is in 50 countries today. And this is all affordable excellence. Affordable excellence is also joining parallels. Affordability can't be excellent, and excellence can't be affordable. They have merged these, and the kind of difference it is making is huge. These are some of the sort of initiatives we have shown. Let me just focus on one of them, Save Mom, right, that can see in the thing. Just I was having a lunch with Srinath Reddy. I got a mail from Senthil, who has done this, that the Bangalore Municipal Corporation, they have actually signed an agreement to track 1 lakh pregnant women. Because what it does, by the way, the problem with women in rural villages is that they have to go for checkup by changing buses and then actually do the tests and so on and so forth. Here, this is an IoT sensor-based system that you can see here, and 7 of your parameters are measured remotely. 1,000 rupees for 1,000 days, 1 rupee per day. Can you just imagine? And there is a Harvard business school case study on this, by the way. Okay? And he sent just a message around 12:38. I remember I showed it to Dr. Reddy, where 1 lakh women will be now, 1 lakh pregnant women will be sort of screened by this, etc. So this is now spreading. The point is, the exponential part of it here is in terms of cost. Not 10%, not 10x, in some cases even 100x. So we are talking about 1 rupee, 5 rupee, 10 rupee, $1, and yet it is making sort of a difference. So the foundation now is not just giving awards, finding funding avenues, creating government partnerships, outreach programs, helping in research and development, and also talent partnerships. In fact, I've been talking about this theme for a long time, ultra low cost product. This is the TED lecture, which has received 7 lakh views and has been translated in 23 languages. And this message of affordable excellence, which is good for the world, because even rich world has poor people. Let's not forget that, and COVID showed it up as to what they had. So I actually began talking about this in Canberra, Melbourne. I had called it Gandhian engineering, getting more from less for more. And then in Washington, I remember World Bank. In fact, they created sort of Vietnam project, $55 million on getting more from less for more and affordable excellence. Spoke in Asian Development Bank in Manila, I remember. In Brussels, European Commissioner of Innovation had invited me to speak. I spoke to around 2,000 people, and they included it in their Horizon 2020 program, by the way. And why it was important for them? Because if it is affordable excellence, they want excellence. But on the top of it is affordable, why not? So as to say. And also, Nitinji, there was a scare. Because if India developed products which match the best performance at a throwaway cost, what will happen to their competition? In fact, all of these technologies are disruptive, by the way. If that eyebrows really works, and Lancet, by the way, has identified that as the sort of best non-invasive, what will happen to their business? And therefore, they have to be ahead of the curve. So we are creating a different kind of competition. I spoke in Beijing, I remember, in several European countries, also Colombo, Cape Town, Pretoria, Medellin, etc. And that message, I'm very happy. There is a journal now, new journal that has come up, exactly dealing with this particular subject. And the activities spreading in the Harvard and MITs of this world. At the last part of my lecture, I want to emphasize, you want to do all this, what do you require? Exponentials, first you require technology. If the technologies are very expensive, you can't go. You require talent. But most importantly, you require trust. Technology, look at the exponentials. We are benefiting from this. If you look at data storage, Crader's law, you can see the hard bits, dollar per bit down by 50% every 18 months. Look at digital imaging, Henry's law, 59% drop every year. Look at network capacity, Butter's law of photonics. Dollar cost of transmitting a bit decreased 50% every 9 months. And lithium-ion batteries are similarly sort of dropping. And Moore's law I'm not even uttering because all of you know that. I want to show you something that you may not have heard about. Just see the dramatic change. I talked, Vivaji, about exponential. Look at sensors, these data. Number of sensors, 2000 to 2014, just 7 years. Number of sensors, they increase by 1,000-fold in 7 years. Cost went down by 1,000. Power consumption went down by 1,000. And physical size went down by 1,000. Not 1,000%, by factor of 1,000. So what is happening is that technology is helping us. And India has been a beneficiary, as you all know. Otherwise, we would not be where we are. And Nitinji, again, this is something close to your heart. The exponential decline in solar PV panel prices, exponential growth in solar energy usage, and you can see the kind of difference that has been made. But along with technology, talent and trust must come together. I was a member of the Microsoft External Research Advisory Board for 5 years and interacted closely, and before that with Bill Gates. And I remember Bill Gates telling me a story. In fact, we had a meeting in Delhi, a dinner come discussion where Nandan Nilekani and Arun Maira, Anand Mahindra, myself, and there were 1 or 2 more people. And what Bill Gates said is important, interesting. He said, I was giving the commencement lecture in Harvard University, and I declared myself as the most successful dropout in that lecture. And he narrated a story that when he was just 18, 19, that time the hardware manufacture of computers was starting. And he said, if they are doing hardware, they will require software. So he called them and said, I'll give the software. And mischievously telling us, I thought they will keep the phone down. You are just starting a new industry, and a young fellow, 18, 19, says, I will give you the software. You know what they did? They did not say they did not keep the phone down. They said, we're not ready as yet. Come after a month. And you know what Bill Gates told us? I did not have the software that I offered them. That is trust. That company had a trust in that young fellow, and that young fellow had a trust in himself. I think that is what we need to develop. Okay? So technology, important. Its prices are dropping. Talent, Indian talent is phenomenal. We run the world today. But trust is very important. Okay? I always say, India's challenge is not budget deficit, it is a trust deficit in many ways. Just think about it. And if we build that, what difference will we be able to make? The other part is when we talk about pole vaulting, great pole vaulting is propelled by high kinetic energy. Faster you run, the greater kinetic energy, further and higher you go. But while you are doing that, supposing there are obstacles in between. Suddenly somebody puts an obstacle. What do? You either slow down or go back. So, in innovation also, that happens. There are a lot of inhibitors. Supposing you are talking about new breakthrough ideas, which are unusual. You are having a brainstorming. The first thing will be too risky. We are risk averse. Supposing it fails, there is always a failure. Afraid of failure. Third, impossible, never done before. What do you mean? Could I have given such a lecture 20 years ago by using the kind of digital tools that I have? Somebody has tried it already. And supposing you are scared, Nitinji, but you have good English, you know what you will say? Let me play devil's advocate. What does it mean? I am scared. So I think the first thing, Vibhaji, is that when you have breakthrough ideas in your fantastic group, put these 5 things outside and say, anybody who utters any of these, please go out. Without that, it cannot happen. So I think it's a mindset change that we have to make. The people, they will have complacency, cynicism, risk aversion, vested interest, bureaucracy, restrictive regulations, all of them can come in the way, by the way. When I'm saying exponential, these are the inhibitors, by the way, that will come in the way. We have to get rid of them. And policy limitations. Look at the cynicism. As I said, I was on the Microsoft External Research Advisory Board. Steve Ballmer was the CEO. Great man. But when iPhone came, what did he say? $500. Fully subsidized. With a plan. I said, that's the most expensive phone in the world. And it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine. Each one of you have iPhone or whatever phone you have, you can see the difference. My own experience in corporates, I have been on a number of boards, Reliance, Tata Motors, Hindustan Lever, Thermax, Godrej, and so on and so forth. Now, I have seen that corporates doing it. For example, daring to try was something Tatas did, by the way. I was invited by Ratan Tata in 2006 for a off-site meeting in Goa, where they had their top executives. And the title of my talk was Innovation as a Way of Life. And then I narrated a story. I said a friend of mine had come from US, and he said, we don't hang people who make mistakes, but we do hang people who don't take risks. What do you do in India? I said, it's obvious we hang people who take risks. So there was a big laughter. Like one, now I had a mild laughter, it was a big laughter. One fellow did not laugh, Nitinji, Ratan. And outside while we were having a tea, he said, what you said is right. How do we make Tata's risk-taking? So I said, celebrate those who dare to try. That became Daring to Try project, by the way. And I remember that has got institutionalized now. You know, institutionalized to such an extent that there was an exhibition and innovation awards, like we give the awards today. I was the chief guest, and I went there, and there were 3 stalls. The first stall was, yes, we did it. That means we had hoary sort of objectives and we achieved. The second was, yes, we are at it. And the third, Vibhaji, was, we tried but. Can you imagine failure was being proudly demonstrated? Why? Because we had great goals, but didn't matter. We failed. That was daring to try. Mahindra, Dare to Dream. I did not have much to do, excepting for changing the title because they had word failure, the best failure of the year. I said, Anand, no, don't use the word failure. Daring to dream, you know, that's what people have done. And beyond us, Reliance, I was involved in creating that word. I mean, creating leadership which thinks beyond the realms of possibilities. Okay, so that is the corporate word. But you will say, oh, corporates have their own money, they can gamble and spend. Hot out of public money, or audit systems, and so on. There are genes of a gambler in me. So in NCL, National Chemical Laboratory, I started a program called Kite Flying Program. Chance of success of an idea, 1 in 100. I will support it. Of course, 1% of the budget, otherwise I would lose my job. It had amazing effect. People started thinking of making impossible possible, set target. There was a paper in Science, there was a paper in Nature. Then when I came to CSR, I called it New Idea Fund, because Parliament was just 1 kilometer away. And if I said kite flying, Parliament question, public money being used for kite flying, and so on. So I called it a New Idea Fund. Amazing results once again, you know. And then finally, public-private partnership, we created a New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative. Leadership was the name. And that is the biggest public-private partnership India has had. More than 100 private sector companies, 250 institutions working together. I won't have time, I could have given a full lecture on that. But this was basically the point, Nitinji. You look at Indian industry. You plot market certainty versus technology certainty. In what quadrant did we always work? Where technologies were certain and markets were certain. Technology is certain, so you could copy it. Markets were certain, you didn't have to spend money on building markets and so on and so forth. We moved it in a different quadrant, where technologies were uncertain and markets were uncertain. Okay? And one of that program was fuel cells, by the way, when nobody talked about it. And results can be seen. For example, KPIT Technologies, Dr. Ashish Lele is here, Director of NCL, Ravi Pandit in the middle, myself. This is the first indigenously developed hydrogen fuel cell bus with this partnership, and that will cost around $400 per kilowatt in comparison to $1,000 to $1,200 globally. And on this Science Day, on 22nd February, our Honorable Prime Minister launched India's first hydrogen-powered ferry built at Cochin shipyard. And its performance is better than the best, but costs are much lower. And this idea of creating green waterways, so as to say, by using this, you know, is something that's floating from 1, now they're moving to 20, and it will cover. But just imagine, we would be begging and borrowing those technologies from others, where at a point in time nobody talked about fuel cells, we are not entered that. So for reaching these exponential kind of innovations, you require that daring. I want to emphasize one particular point, you know, which I always do. If you look at the NIMITLI program, New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Program, 2005 to 2019, the total expenditure was just $7 million. Okay? But if you look at US Department of Energy, their 2009 budget itself was $77 million, 1 year. Okay? So that means NIMITLI budget was, for 13 years, was 10 times lower than the US budget of 1 year. We deliver the highest intellectual capital per dollar. That's our great advantage. And as a scientist, I thought I will quantify it. This is an interesting table. Look at it very carefully. What I've done, GDP per capita, then the total GDP, the R&D expenditure, R&D spending, and just looked at publications, by the way. And publications count per US dollar per billion dollars. So you have this ratio of R&D US dollars spent per R&D US dollars spent in India for the same output. Can you see the competitiveness? If India is 1, UK is 2, Australia is 4, China is 5, Germany is 6, US is 7, and Japan is 12. What does it mean? Supposing you take Germany, 6 means what? Where we spend $1, they have to spend $6 to get the same intellectual output. That is the competitive advantage. That is why we have today 1,200 multinational R&D centers here in India. Indian IQ generating IP for them. Many companies are there, 1/3 of the IP comes from here. Indian IQ must generate IP for Indian industry, and that is where Indian industry has to spend more. You remember our sort of famous argument about our concern about that. I thought I'll make that point. Finally, I want to go back to what General Bipin Rawat, after he read the book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, said. He said, he's no more unfortunately, that time has come to move from leapfrogging to pole vaulting for India. I think that is what we need to do. And therefore, we need to build exponential innovation leaders who will pole vault, not just leapfrog. We will constantly change experiment, not just improvement. They will believe in making the impossible possible. They will set unreasonable goals, unreasonable looking goals, challenge conventional wisdom, very, very important. We get stuck, Baba Vakyam Pramanam. Get ordinary people to do extraordinary things. To get extraordinary people to do extraordinary things, very easy. Can we get ordinary people to do extraordinary things? That's a special leadership. Suffer from divine discontent and convert adversity into opportunity, generate exponential value through innovation, disruptive game-changing innovation. That's what we require. I want to show you a film. This is of Jaipur Foot. And you can see the exponential as well as inclusion here. Watch this film carefully. This foot costs just $28, okay? Not $2,000. Just see the flexibility in the foot. Just see the way he jumps. Fine. When he's asked, did it hurt? He says, no, it did not. Okay? No, not at all. And then see what he does. He runs. And he can run a kilometer in 4 minutes 30 seconds. Now here is my question. How many of you can run a kilometer in 4 minutes 30 seconds? Nitinji, you and I are excluded. Huh? Come on. And there are lots of young people. Please raise your hands. Or you could do it in your younger days for those like me. At least from that side there has to be something. From upstairs? Come on. Come on. One. Good. Second. Doesn't matter. What is the capacity of this auditorium? 300? Huh? So out of 400, and the house is not full, it's maybe 5% less, say 300. I'll put 300. Out of 300, 2 hands went up. What does it mean, Nitin? If you create affordable excellence, 99% of us can be beaten. That's the message. That is the power of the technology that we are talking about. All right? So inclusion of a very different kind. India's dream has to be this. This is symbolic. This video is very, very important for me. What it reflects, you know, not left behind, not just included, but ahead of the curve. That is the issue. I like to end because I see a lot of young Indians, as we said, 81 going to 82. I learned a lot by my sort of failure rather than success. So here are 5 mantras that I have learned. Maybe they will be useful for you. And I will end my lecture with this. The first is, aspirations are your possibilities. Keep them high. Chase 10x, not 10%. When I took over as NCL director, 1989, we were copying, we were reverse engineering. Liberalization had not come up. So I said, all my life am I going to copy? And I remember on the very first day, I had 1,100 people in an auditorium which was 564, breaking all safety norms. And I said, let National Chemical Laboratory be International Chemical Laboratory. We'll export our knowledge. Okay, we'll license our patents. And that was daring, because in 39 years of our experience, we did not have a single US patent. Because patenting was not a culture. Okay, and I said that. And I remember I said G, because I'm a polymer guy, and G was doing some polymer work. And I remember one young fellow came to me, he said, sir, do you know G's R&D budget is 2.5 times India's R&D budget? I said, it is not the power of the budget, it's the power of idea that matters. And so you said G, we'll take on G. And in 1992, we licensed 3 of our US patents for close to $1 million in polycarbonate, where they had 40% market share. Indian mine. Aspirations. The moment the aspiration changed, that we are not going to be followers, we are going to be leaders, it made a difference. And then one day Jack Welch said, if they are so good, why are we not there? Then R&D center that came, and then the others came. And today you can see what has actually happened. Keep the aspirations high. The second is you can do anything but not everything. So focus. I think that's very, very important. You know, nowadays, Vibhaji, as you must have seen, young people in particular, mobile, attention span, etc. I think it is very, very important. That lesson of focus I learned in my young age, and there is a message from that, so I'll mention to you. I was born in a very poor family. My father died when I was 6. My mother could barely read or write. You can say she was almost illiterate. She brought me to Mumbai, did any work, including manual, to bring me up. I walked barefoot until I was 12. I studied under street lights. And a Tata scholarship I got because I stood 11th in the SSC board among 1,35,000 students, and my life changed. When I passed 7th standard, I remember I had stood first, and my mother required 21 rupees. Because barefoot, so shoes are required, uniform is required, fee and all. She took 21 days to get it. And we borrowed it from a housemaid who was working in Chowpatty. It was her life saving. 21 rupees was a lot of money at that time. And I missed admissions in all great schools, like Aryan High School, Wilson High School, and I went to a poor school. But Nitinji, that poor school had rich teachers. One of them was my science teacher. He did not believe in chalk and talk. He believed in learning and doing and watching and so on and so forth. So one day he took us out into the sun. He had a convex lens in his hand. He had a piece of paper, held it in the sun, moved up and down. And when the brightest spot came, he said, this is the focal length. And then he held it for some time, and the paper burnt. And then he turned to me and said, like this, if you focus, you can achieve anything. So 2 lessons. First, focus. And second, science is so great, I'll become a scientist. That is where I became a scientist, by the way. Okay? And as I grew, I saw more lessons. Convex lens, parallel lines, okay? Never meet. So National Chemical Laboratory, when I took over, no 2 divisions talked to each other. Bringing them together was convex lens leadership. CSI transformation, 40 labs, nobody talked to each other. CSI transformation, which is heralded as among sort of the greatest, bringing them together, etc., etc. So we require for nation also that. Race, religion, language, convex lens leadership will bring them together. Okay? Concave lens leadership will take them apart. It's very, very sort of fundamentally important. You look at purpose, pursuance and passion, too early to quit. Winners are never quitters, quitters are never winners. Fail is the first attempt in learning. Okay? Your last mistake is your best guru, as long as you learn from it. Chandrayaan 3 succeeded because they looked at the failure of Chandrayaan 2 and incorporated that. And you will fail, but you have to recover. When doors of opportunity that you keep on knocking don't open, create your own doors. Once again, from my book of life, 76, Vibhaji, I came here, came back, no foreign exchange. I wanted an equipment, Weisenberg reorgoniometer. It would take me 2 years. DGTD clearance, not manufactured in India certificate. So I was not getting that equipment. I said, what is the equipment I have? This. I shifted fields. I went to mathematical modeling and simulation. 77, Nitinji, I started work. 82, I got Bhatnagar Prize. As you know, which is one of the highest prize you can get. If I was like this and waiting for that door to open, would have never happened. So create your own doors. And the final point, and I will end my lecture, there is no limit to human endurance, no limit to human achievement, no limit to human imagination, excepting the ones you set on yourself. I remember when I became fellow of Royal Society, there have been only 3 engineering scientists in 364 years. Great honor. I called my guru, Professor C.N.R. Rao. Sir, I have become FRS. You know what he said? Not bad. Then I got another American Academy, etc. And National Academy University. Each time I would call him, he would say, not bad. Then I said, sir, what do I have to do to impress you? And you know what he said? He calls me Ramesh, as you know. He said, Ramesh, you are climbing on a ladder of excellence, which is limitless. Accepting the limit you put on yourself. What does it mean? No matter what we achieve in life, you have to say, my best is yet to come. So the message for my young colleagues is, every day in the morning when you get up, you should say, my best is yet to come, and today is going to be the day. And it does not matter if you are 18 or 80. All right? And my best is yet to come, not just for me, but for my society, for a nation. And if each one of us, 1.4 billion Indians, do it every day, my best is yet to come for my India, what will be our India? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for this enlightening talk, and we are exponentially inspired, I think. Moving on, the floor is open for a few questions.
I have to prove that I am young, you know. Any questions, even advice will do, by the way. You can always learn.
What would be the graph for innovation from a lab to
Just speak, so that everybody can hear.
Yeah. So my question, what could be the, we all know as an innovator what is the curve, but if from you, I would like to know the curve for an innovation curve from lab to field. How is the curve?
Lab to speed, you mean to say?
Lab to field. Implementation. An idea from lab to be implemented in field. What is the curve according to you?
I think you are talking about ideas to impact finance.
Yes, sir.
Mind to marketplace.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a journey, it's an ecosystem that matters, as a matter of fact. And as you saw, great ideas don't necessarily end up in great products which are accepted. So in that ecosystem, there are a number of players, as you know. When you start, I'll give the example of seed. Idea is like a seed. Idea is like a seed. Seed, S-E-E-D. Okay. That seed has to be fertile. Because you don't eat seed, you eat fruit. Ideas to impact is moving from seed to fruit. So just look at the way a tree grows. You put seed, but you have to put it in a fertile soil. Otherwise it will not. So great ideas get lost if you don't in an environment where that idea is appreciated or initial funding is given and so on. Then it becomes a plantlet. Okay, that is the early stage financing. That is very required, very important. Our venture capital has become, should be adventure capital. It has become vulture capital. You understand, you want immediate profits. That doesn't work. Then when it grows, you have to protect it. Protect it in a number of ways, because pesticides, insecticides, there will be all sorts of attacks as you grow. And finally the tree and bearing. In fact, there is a complete book written by a 22-year-old, a 200-page book on this analogy and how it matters every stage, basically. So you require an ecosystem where there are not only ideas, early stage financing of those ideas, later on filling up the gaps. For example, bulk of what national labs do, universities do, is what we call as TRL1, TRL2, TRL3. What does the industry need? TRL9. What does the industry expect from the labs? TRL9. Will they be able to do that? No. And therefore, there is a big gap between TRL3, 4 and TRL9. In fact, Nitinji, as you know, we had this 1 lakh crore being announced by the government, and somebody had asked me about what to do. I said, please fill that gap. all right? There are models like Catapult in UK who actually fill that particular gap by funding, creating partnerships, and so on and so forth. If you ask me, India's biggest problem is we are full of ideas, okay? Impact is not in proportion to those great ideas, simply because they miss some of these elements. We have to, and if you are interested in looking at the details of what needs to be done, go to my website, www.mashelkar.com. I have at least half a dozen papers on answering your question there. Please do that. Thank you. All right.
Sir, my question is for a very young researcher. What is the, how to balance, like what is best, whether publication or patenting?
Competition or?
Publication or patenting for a young researcher who has a very innovative mind. So they should patent more or publish?
Okay. No, the answer is simple. In fact, this NCS story that I mentioned to you, you know, we did not have patenting culture at all. Okay? As I said, in 39 years, we had 0 US patents. But we used to have great ideas and we used to publish. And a lot of money used to be made. By whom? Not by India, by others, by using those ideas. So my mantra was patent, publish, and prosper. So when you have these ideas, you have to first block them by filing, let's say, patents in the initial form, so that you protect it, because patents represent actually monetizable knowledge and your ownership of that. Not just knowledge, monetizable. You understand? And then is protection. Not every patent will give you money, by the way. Okay? You, in fact, build a portfolio of knowledge. So it is like this. So I'll give you an example. I mentioned polycarbonate. Okay. What happened was, I was doing modeling and simulation, and that modeling and simulation was for Indian organic chemicals, Manali. They were producing 6,000 tons per day of polyester. So I went into modeling and simulation, right from task specification, instant change, and so on and so forth. But I had an agreement with the industry that new knowledge will be published. But the benefits of it you can use to create wealth, improve productivity and product quality. So therefore, I don't believe in this scientific versus industrial research. I got Bhatnagar Prize for the science I had done, but industry made money because they took the benefit of that modeling and simulation. Okay, no issue. Ravindranath, my student, got a PhD. So is it scientific research or industrial research? If it is scientific research, how did industry benefit? If it is industrial research, how did I get Bhatnagar Prize and a PhD? So I think first of all, we must forget that distinction. And second part, once we forget that distinction, as far as the usable knowledge is concerned, as soon as you spot it, you hold your publication. For a time, you find a PCT application, for example. You will have a limited time. And then you publish this. So it is patent, publish, and prosper. So this breakthrough that we had, because I was working on this modeling, and there is, fiber is produced by melt state polycondensation, lower molecular weight. PET bottles that you see is high molecular weight. Okay, and that is done by solid state polycondensation. Okay, and I got a new idea based on the simulation that I was doing of doing polycarbonate in a solid state polycondensation. Can you imagine, world's largest producer had not thought of that idea. And I had an idea of pushing carbon dioxide, so there is a plasticization and how we can manage that glass resistant temperature and so on. And what did we do? We did not publish it immediately. We patented it first, then published it in macromolecules. And the licensing fees that I talked about came as a result of that. Patent, publish, and prosper. Simple. Okay? Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. what I found is normally people are hesitant to ask questions or whatever time reserved. So I'll give you my email ID. It is ram@mashelkar.com. ram@mashelkar.com. Just send me the question, and within 24 hours you'll get the answer. Okay? Everyone, democratization.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for answering all our questions. I believe patent, publish and prosper is a key mantra that all of us young researchers can now follow and adopt in our lives. Thank you, sir, so much. We now move on to a very awaited moment of the Darbari Seth Memorial Lecture, the Roll of Honor. Every year, TERI recognizes colleagues across the organization for their outstanding performance and achievements, their dedication to work, sincerity, and professionalism. I would kindly request Dr. Mashelkar to felicitate the winners of the TERI Roll of Honor for the year 2023-24. We begin by having TERI's professional team today and felicitating them for their work and contribution. From Land Resources, we have Ms. Ariba Usmani. Ms. Afreen Zaidi. Ms. Abha Balal. From Electricity and Renewables Division, we have Ms. Himakshi Malik. Dr. Arunendra Kumar Tiwari. From Environmental and Industrial Biotechnology Division, we have Dr. Nishi Sahu. From Earth Science and Climate Change, we have Mr. Shaurya Anand. Dr. Manish Kumar Shrivastava. From Industrial Energy Efficiency, we have Ms. Meenu Saini. We also have Mr. Girish Sethi and Mr. Arjun D. Shetty who are not present. Can we please have a huge round of applause for all our colleagues? From Sustainable Buildings, we have Ms. Tarishi Kaushik. From Sustainable Buildings and Griha, we have Ms. Shabnam Basi, who is not present here today. From Griha Council, we also have Ms. Aditi Dev, who is also not present today. From Transport and Urban Governance, we have Mr. Sharif Kamal. Ms. Viral Deepak Bhai Joshi. Dr. Rahul Chakrabarti. From Sustainable Agriculture, we have Dr. Pushpalata Singh. Dr. Shovan Mandal. Dr. Mandira Kochar. From Knowledge Resource Center, we have Ms. Pallavi Singh. Dr. Partha Kalyan Bhattacharya. And Ms. R.A. Maningdola Thangal, who is not present here. Finally, from the Environment Education and Awareness Division, we have Ms. Taru Mehta. We also have Dr. Livleen K. Kahlon, who is not present here today. Can we have a huge round of applause for all our colleagues? Next are the TERI support professionals from various divisions and areas for the role of honor. Mr. K. Ashok Kumar from Sustainable Buildings. Mr. Rahul Kumar, Information Technology and Services. Mr. Krishan Kanhaiya from Information Technology and Services. Ms. Anupama Johri, Communications and Publications. Mr. Vijay Nipane, Communications and Publications. Ms. Sonali Mathur Prakash, Event Cell, Administrative Services. Ms. Ritu Ghai, Event Cell, Administrative Services. Mr. Jay Kumar VK, Integrated Finance Unit. Mr. Sambat Kumar Nagarajan, Integrated Finance Unit. Mr. Jaydev Nautiyal, Administrative Services. Mr. Anup Variambat, Administrative Services. And and Mr. Kanchan Kumar, Land Resources, who's not present with us today. Can we have a huge round of applause for all our colleagues? I now hand it over to my colleague, Dr. Mithali.
You know, I want to congratulate you all for something that you might have taken as obvious. Many times I have seen that the intensity of clapping is very small. One person, 2 person, 10 persons, the others are silent and so on. Then what I do in the middle of the lecture is remind them that a clap does not cost anything, a smile does not cost anything. So please give in plenty, and then there is a clapping. What I found differently about this is all of you were clapping all around, right from the beginning till end. You did not have it all. Fantastic.
Thank you, Apurva. What a remarkable evening we have had. As we approach to the formal closing of the event, now I kindly request Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General TERI, to offer tribute to our founders and deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mashelkar, Mr. Desai, Mr. Seth's family, Dr. Pachauri's family who had joined us virtually, representatives of the media, and my dear colleagues. What an inspiring lecture. I think it's a real tribute to our founders, Mr. Darbari Seth and Dr. Pachauri, because they have led the foundation of the great institute. And I'll quote what Mr. Mashelkar said just now, the yet is yet to come. So the little seed that they have sown many years back, 50 years back, and that is what I always say, that it's like a car. It takes time for it to warm up, and thereafter you can run it at 4th gear or even faster, and that is where TERI today is. We have done enough warming up. We have understood what we can do and what the world requires or world's expectations from us. It's really great to have or to celebrating 103rd birth anniversary. I was corrected today. Somehow we always thought, or maybe I'm wrong, we always celebrated Mr. Seth's birthday in August, 21st August. But today I was corrected that his birthday is on the new year, that is 1st of January. So maybe from next year we will celebrate in January, or we'll start the year by celebrating his birthday. Now, I'd like to thank all, I'll say all those who have contributed to this long journey of TERI. A lot of colleagues, I should say that they have gone elsewhere, but I'm sure their heart still lies with TERI. And I normally say that not to worry, because one of the objective, or the sole objective of setting up of this beautiful institute was we should create knowledge. And that is why by nature we are not-for-profit research organization. And to do research, or once you create knowledge, somewhere it is that you spread that knowledge also. And that is the role that those who are elsewhere, those alumni who are now with different organizations, they are taking the basic degree, basic knowledge that TERI has given them, and the basic, I should say, the culture of hard working, of sharing that has been created in this institute, and they remember for the rest of their lives. So I would like to thank them as well for their contributions that have been made in the past. Some of you are comparatively new, and as you have seen, not many have spent even 10 years, 10, 20, 30, so really speaking, most of us have got the award today of serving TERI for long years. And that essentially means that many of you perhaps don't even know how TERI has evolved over years. And going back to 1974, and as Chairman Sir had said, that was the time that oil crisis had taken place, and Tata's, of course, today there are many foundations, but Tata's, they are known for philanthropy, and they realized that for the development of our country, energy is going to be one of the main bottlenecks. And that is the reason this particular, the conception of TERI, which occurred in Mithapur. So, and then they started operations in Mumbai, Pondicherry, and so on. So the entire idea was that there should be an institute forward-looking, which should look into the energy problems and solutions that we can offer to the country. And that's how our name was Tata Energy Research Institute. And we were set up as not-for-profit research organization. So that defines our role very clearly. In fact, sir, while Dr. Mashelkar was delivering his lecture, and normally what I do is I take few notes what to speak on, but in his case it was that perhaps I had to speak on everything, because it was every word gave us a message. And especially if you try to say what we learned as a research institute, I suppose all of you will have to listen to his lecture again and again, because it was just what we require. He spoke about parallel lines and focus. The uniqueness of TERI is that, really speaking, if we talk of sustainability, the globe as a whole requires, it's every issue on which TERI is working. But we have to come out of silos. We have to ensure that we give holistic solutions to the world. We can definitely do it. It's not something that we can't do it, but really speaking, we'll have to make some effort what to learn from my other colleagues. How do I ensure that what I'm doing can be used for larger section of the society? And some of you, again, I'll go back to the history. It's J.R.D. Tata, Mr. Darbari Seth, and in 74, when they conceived the institute, it was, the corpus was just about 3.5 CR. It's not a very big sum of money, and we started as a fund-giving organization. And after almost a decade, when Dr. Pachauri joined full-time, that was the time it was felt, and very rightly so, you cannot do research by funding research alone. You need to have goals. You need to do things what you want to do. And since 84, from fund-giving organization, we became fund-seeking organization. We must salute the vision of Dr. Pachauri, because we started in rented accommodation in Jorbagh, and it was one building, second building, and finally when we moved to India Habitat Center, I think we were in 9 different buildings. And it was not an easy journey. We were always discussing, should we build our campus in Gwalpahari, or should we have it in India Habitat Center, because IHC was expensive. And that time also, it was Mr. Seth who gave us, again, you can say, second tranche of grant, so that we can afford to be in this beautiful campus. Other things, like I do remember, and many of the discussions in which I was involved in discussing with Mr. Darbari Seth and Dr. Pachauri. So that time it used to be, and it was Mr. Seth, in a way, who said, you must develop Gwalpahari campus. And you know, small little things which I still remember, and largely because I started with one of the first project, Micropropagation Technology Park in Gwalpahari. So I had the privilege of going with Mr. Seth to Gwalpahari, and believe me, He was not a biotechnologist and I was. But the day I had to travel with him, the previous night, I will also spend 4 or 5 hours on the net. What is new in biotechnology? Because I don't know what question he's going to ask me, because he was so well read, so up to date. And therefore, but then Gwalpahari was 1 hour going, 1 hour coming. So 2 hours spending with him, which was gaining lots and lots of knowledge. Few little things. And in a way, lots have been said, but one lesson which I always remember, and he shared about his childhood once. And he said, I had gone out to play, and some kids, he had a fight with kids, and he came back, and he said his aunt, his bua, and he said, I came home crying. And she asked me what happened, and I said, us bacche ne mara hai. And he said, she gave me another tight slap. And she said, kabhi roke mat aana, apna faisla bahar karke aao. Tumne kyun nahi mara? Tumhare haath kya problem thi? You could have, if you were right, you should have hit him back. So the lesson is, never be a loser. And you have to settle your own scores. One fine day, I was just coming with him, and he just asked me, what's wrong in this advertisement? And I thought, nothing is wrong in that advertisement. And that was of a soap which says beauty bar. And he said, do you know why they are not writing soap and they are writing beauty bar? Now, really speaking, for most of us, it is perhaps beauty bar is better than soap. So, but then he corrected me. He said, as per the regulation, there is certain quantity of moisture which should be in the soap. And these people are not adding that. And therefore, they are writing beauty bar. So therefore, you really have to read in between the lines what it is. Now, of course, I'm just shifting between Dr. Pachauri and Mr. Darbari Seth. Now, few of the things, and that define TERI's character, is that we are always, like Dr. Pachauri was a visionary. No one was talking about climate change. No one was talking of sustainable development in last century. And those two words, which have become so important today, TERI was the front runner under the visionary guidance of Dr. Pachauri. We have learnt a lot, and that also has defined the character of this great institute. And as rightly said, we all have to say every morning, the yet is yet to come. There is so much that we can do, and we are not doing a job. If we want, I always say that the problems that the world is facing today, whether you talk of energy transition, clean technologies, you are talking of the impact of climate change. Really speaking, if we don't take action, I don't think so the humankind will be able to survive on this planet. And therefore, let's salute our founders who 50 years back thought of what kind of problems the world is going to face. And it is not what they have shown us. Yes, definitely we have to salute them, we have to thank them. We also have to make a promise to ourselves that we will maintain the tradition, and that is we have to think ahead of time. We also have to think that if you talk of tradition, Mr. Seth, at one time, he was chairman of over a dozen Tata companies. Now imagine the pressure on his time. And he was able to give directions to each one of them. Now, does that teach us something? I think that teaches us that please take challenges and ensure that you are able to deliver to best of your abilities. We have 24 hours in a day, and it's 365 days in a year, and we all are very intelligent, innovative, and that I'll say Indians are, and we especially in TERI are. With such rich tradition, such rich inheritance, we really have to go a long way. And it's all obvious in the past. It is I should say, the work of each one of you. Many of you have got roll of honor. We have completed 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Thank you very much for your work which you have contributed to the growth of this institute. It also comes with responsibility that you have to do much more. So while I thank, I'll also like to say it is not only those who have got roll of honor. When we announced that time also I said that there are many who have got in the past, so we are not repeating those names. But the character of TERI, or what TERI is, because of each one of you. So thanks once again. And I'll also like to put special thanks to all the support professionals, because many of you who are professionals in research category, you get a lot of cake out of publishing a paper or getting an IPR. But those who are supporting us, let's realize that you are able to do that only because they are supporting you. So please acknowledge them all the time. And I should say that we should also make a commitment to ourselves that we will walk on the path that has been shown by our founders, and we will ensure that TERI reaches much greater heights in years to come, and we all will strive for excellence and working together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, we come to an end of this program. I request all guests and dignitaries to join us for a brief get-together on 5th floor social room of TERI office. Also, I request TERI colleagues to kindly join us for tea served at the basement of the Stein Auditorium and balcony area. Thank you once again. Have a great evening ahead. Can we have